So I was just going to take you through a quick little history of my journey in martial arts. So as was mentioned, I own Immortal Tiger Kenpo Karate, which is here in North Austin. I'm a one-woman show right now, so it's all just me. We'll go through all that a bit. So I want to start with how I got into martial arts. I began training in 2000 in the summer. I was 15 years old. I used to be super skinny and awkward. I had exercise-induced asthma, so pretty much regular sports were out. I actually found out I had asthma because I tried to join track and had an asthma attack. That was not so much fun. That meant also soccer and everything else I had running was out. Mean kids would actually call me stick because I was super, super skinny. Like I just had skin and bone. I wasn't muscular. I wasn't fat, nothing. But the summer of 2000, a friend of mine said, hey, let's go learn sword like Kenshin, the anime that we used to watch. That got my attention. We started studying. But in the summer, the karate kids at that school, because that's where we rented from, convinced me to stay for a lesson. And I was hooked. I finally found something that I could do, even with my asthma. It was really exciting. So this was actually me about half a year later at my yellow belt test, my first test. I learned a lot at that first school. For example, I learned that balance is very hard. I used to fall a lot when I was doing side kicks. I just had terrible balance. I didn't know how to twist and rotate and stay up. But when I was learning side kicks, there was this amazing female senior high school student who would teach me. And she was even shorter than I was. I was very short as well, like 5'4" now. I was maybe 5 foot then, but when I was learning, but she was maybe barely 5 foot, and she could kick anybody in the room, even if they were a tall boy. It was super impressive and super big role model for me. Then I found out that, ooh, I can compete and I can win trophies doing this too. That was super exciting again, because I couldn't go to regular sports and win games like, all my peers could. But if I could do something like that in karate, that was really exciting to me. And then, reality check, as I started competing, I thought that my forms looked really awesome. And then one of our senior instructors told me that they kind of sucked. And that's when I learned, okay, maybe they didn't, but I can try harder. I can focus on details and I can improve myself, So I learned a lot about constructive criticism back then. And then I also, I was big into drama club in high school. And I found out with the demo team that we could choreograph our karate to music. And basically half performance is kind of like a karate version of drama club. And this is actually a photo from sometime in high school, I think maybe my junior or senior year, where we'd won our demo team demonstration at the tournament. I'm over here on the right with my hand up really high. So my first black belt was at that karate school. I actually left for college as a red belt, but I kept practicing. One of my closest friends was with me on that college trip as well. And both of us were red belts when we left for college at the same time. So we trained really hard together. And when we came back in December of 2004, we both tested together for black belt. And it was such an amazing transformation for me because I was no longer that awkward girl from the summer of 2000. Here I was, my friend and I started teaching at the intramural program in college. I could now do 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, 100 jumping jacks a night without blinking because that's what we were required to do back in that school in New York. And I actually had muscle on my arms. I had great balance. Like I had confidence now. Like I was completely a different child or adult at that point. And then fun fact was that my senior year of high school before I left for college, I actually broke the girls' records for seniors for push-ups at my high school. So, because I just did a lot of reunited karate. And then life continues, So I went to college in Indiana, like I mentioned, and I ended up enrolling at a Taekwondo school out there. I couldn't find a really good karate school that was nearby. We also cross-trained in small circle jiu-jitsu there. I love that school. My instructor was the person in the middle next to me here, Deborah Grimaldi. So that was my first time having a female instructor instead of a male instructor, and she was and still is phenomenal. She still has her school in Indiana. I ended up testing for my black belt there in 2009 of May. I also got the purple belt in her school in the jiu-jitsu. But then, work and life, et cetera, continues. And so in 2010, I relocated for my job to California. And that's where I first started doing Kenpo, which is what I teach here. I looked for another karate school or a Taekwondo school, just didn't find a good fit there. One of my Indiana black belt friends that I trusted really well said, check out Kenpo. It's super popular in California. You'll love it. And I trusted him a lot because he and I used to train together all the time. I went to my first class and I just loved that everything had a why. Like when we learned a kata, they told me exactly what I was hitting, why I was hitting it. Like there was super practical application in everything. And it was like a light bulb moment at that school. And I said, yes, sign me up. I went to one class, sign me up. I'll do your 1 year program even because I'm already a lifer in martial arts at this point. And been there ever since. That was the beginning of 2011. And I still train under him remotely in Zoom. But I did move away to Texas in 2016 again for work. And I did not have a school of his out here. There's a lot of American Kempo out here, but there's no Shaolin Kempo in Texas. So I ended up taking it with me. But I did briefly cross-train in American Kempo when I moved here. And did that for about a year or so until I started teaching on my own under his suggestion, my instructor's suggestion. People always do ask, though, what challenges did I see as a female in the martial arts, right? And for me, I was just used to it growing up since I started in high school. Like, I was just always used to sparring with the boys mostly. There was a few girls like that one I mentioned earlier who were really impressive, and then there was mostly boys. And so I think that actually helped me a lot. I got a lot of grand champions at tournaments back in the day because I was just used to fighting the tougher boys. But like in college, I worked in computer repair, very male dominant field. And then after graduating, I ended up working in network engineering and also a very male heavy profession. So neither of that fazed me though, because from my martial arts experience, I was already used to being around a lot of boys. And then for me, I've never really let gender get in the way. So whether it was going for a black belt, trying to get a trophy at a tournament, or fighting for that next promotion at work, I just learned to work hard for those things and earn them like any other person. And that's how I've tackled everything in life. That said, I did have one challenge, or two, I should say, as a martial arts female. And their names are Billy and Nova. They are my two lovely children. So this is actually me at 40 weeks pregnant with my second child, who decided to arrive an additional 2 weeks after this late. But I trained with both of them all the way to the end. I'm very proud of that. I had very low risk pregnancies, so that also helped. Obviously, if I'd had a high risk pregnancy, that wouldn't have been possible. But yeah, so that did delay some of my black belt testing at the Kempo school, because you're not going to test when you're super pregnant for obvious reasons. It's not very safe. But doing regular training is actually rather safe, and I had a great experience training with them. Also had a great experience training postpartum, because then I learned that my amazing push-ups suddenly were not very capable, because your whole core gets messed up after you give birth. So that was fun to rebuild that both times. And then fun fact with my son, my firstborn, I was actually at an Iaido, a Japanese sword seminar, having what I thought were the Braxton Hicks contractions. Those are the fake ones, not the real ones. Turns out they actually weren't. And 2 days later, I gave birth to him after that sword seminar. And then I just want to talk a little bit. So I've always known that one day I wanted to have my own school. I've told my parents this since I was little, and just everywhere I've gone, I've always said, one day I want to have my school. And I always immediately, as soon as I was able to, I would assistant teach in any of the previous schools that I trained at. Once I knew enough, I would be on the floor working with kids. So like when the Kempo school, like as soon as I had my yellow belt, I was helping the white belts. I love working with other kids and other adults and just helping people understand what they're doing and why. Out here, I started subletting and teaching once a week in 2017. And then a year later in 2018, I ended up just teaching twice a week, and I stopped cross-training. So then every Tuesday, Thursday since 2018. And then halfway through the pandemic, I began to get really curious on rental prices, because I saw a lot of places still being left open, with all these people moving out, unfortunately, because they just couldn't keep their businesses afloat during the pandemic. So I started to look around, and I started finding a few places that I could actually afford. That was October when I started looking. By January, I finally signed my first lease. We finished the build out last month in March. And now I get to teach 3 times a week, and I teach so many more hours than I did before, because it's my space, so I have all the hours available, and I love it. I'm just, it's so rewarding. I'm really excited to have my own place. And that's a picture of my dojo here in Austin on the right. And so now I just look at it as growing the next generation. I lead by example, and I believe that everyone should earn the respect of students and peers. It's not something you just give. Respect is something you must earn. So that goes for me as well as my students. It's a mutual thing. And a lot of what you learn in martial arts really is more mental than physical. Most people don't realize that. Maybe 40% of it's actually physical, and the other 60% is, how do you talk yourself out of a situation? How do you be aware of your surroundings? Like, knowing if somewhere is safe to walk in the middle of the night, that's mental. That's not a physical altercation at this point. And so I really spend a lot of time thinking about that part of the martial art, the mental part. My favorite thing about teaching, though, is that to teach is to learn twice. My instructor says this all the time. I think he got it from a fortune cookie, but it's so true. You think you know something, and then you show somebody else that same thing, and they ask a question you've never thought about. And now suddenly you're learning too, because you've had to rethink your whole philosophy and why am I doing this thing? And black belt really is just the beginning. Like, I've been doing this now for 21 years, and there's still so much more out there for me to learn. I will eternally be a student. And then a big thing I impress upon all my students is common sense before self-defense. If you don't have to fight, why should you be fighting? But if we do, we learn how to end the fights and not start them. And that's the end of my presentation. I did have one really quick, like 20-second video I was going to share with you all once I find the stop sharing. There we go. Okay, so let me share that one quick video for y'all, and then I will hand it back over to the next person. Tab. So this is what sold me on Kenpo when I first tried it. This is me in California, like a year or two ago, before the pandemic hit. This is us doing our very first kata with the black belts all attacking me. So I'm just gonna play this for y'all real quick. It's 20 seconds. Lightning round. Lightning round.
Lightning round, begin.
And stop.
Very cool.
So that is our, that's our very first kata. We teach that first, face, groin, face, like teach it solo. And then we throw people in front of them. And that includes for kids. Like I'll throw other kids or myself in front of them and they'll learn to do it just like that eventually. Not that speed right away, obviously, but we work up to that speed and that power. And that's what I love about Kenpo. It's super practical and everything you get to do attacks for. So, all right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. And that's really motivating. It makes me want to hit the gym and do some push-ups, honestly. Our next
I can't do that many
is
anymore, but go.
Still, it's motivating. Yeah. Our next presenter is Laura Hayden, and as I mentioned before, she is the executive director of Sun Dragon Martial Arts and Self-Defense, and they teach Seido Karate there. And if her Sandan and Karate wasn't enough to make her formidable enough for you, then she's also a rugby player, so that's also pretty dang cool. Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. Rugby is a little bit in my past, but I still love to tackle. So I'm going to give a little bit of information about our school and what we've got going on right now. Why is it? Oh, come on. All right, let's try that again. Tab. Aha! There we go. Oh. And of course, I didn't get all the way back to the beginning. Excuse me, pardon me. Oh, here it is. So our school is called Sun Dragon Martial Arts and Self-Defense. We are a nonprofit, and that's why I'm called an executive director. I run the business side of things. We have been around since 1989. This is a picture on the left of our original school. And we've changed a little bit over the years. We started out as a school for women and children. We taught Kyokushin and Kip Karate and empowerment self-defense. In 2008, we moved to Westgate Boulevard, and not only because we now had air conditioning, but it was a much larger space. So we were able to double our student body. It was very exciting. One of the reasons we've been around for so long and is the women's martial arts community. Sun Dragon has been a member of NWMAF since the 1980s. Our founder, Sensei Suzanne, is in the picture right below the text. And she brought students to NWMAF special training every year, or as often as they could. And just having this community of other women who all train in martial arts of different sorts was just such an amazing experience and really allowed our school to continue after Sensei Suzanne retired. Empowerment self-defense is another thing that we got through the women's martial arts, women's community. Through empowerment self-defense, we teach how to use your voice and use your awareness of your surroundings, to, as Sensei Kat also said, to stop violence before it starts. So we have an event coming up. We try to have them at our school every couple of months. Currently, we are moving from being entirely in Zoom to being in person. So hopefully this June 6th workshop will actually be in person. But we teach the kids as well as adults how to use your voice to de-escalate, how to use your body language to get the idea across of what you want to happen, and give people a chance to listen and work with you rather than simply responding with violence. When it comes to our martial arts at Sun Dragon, we now teach Seido Juku. Seido is the sincere way, and it was founded by Kaicho Tadashi Nakamura. How we got from Kyokushin to Seido, when Sensei Joy took over the school in 2004, she really needed a style that had a more active international organization. And since Kaicho also trained underneath Makoyama, who founded Kyokushin, it seemed like a very good fit. The other thing that made it work very well is Seishihan Nancy Lanu, who runs one of the schools in Chicago, Thousand Ways, is just such an inspiring person, and she agreed to take us under her wing. And so we consider ourselves kind of the little sister of Thousand Ways in Chicago. In 2020, so last year, Sensei Joy retired, and I took over from her as the executive director. Our two senseis, our two highest ranking students, Sensei Teijay is now the senior instructor, and Sensei Graham Smith is our head instructor. So he is leading the Seido instruction side of our school. Getting to go to New York and meet Kaicho and his son Midaime has been such an incredible experience, and to learn from them and to look around the room and see so many people who've been studying Seido for decades. It's one of those experiences that makes you realize how much being in this group of people who are caring and loving, and Seido believes in developing the strength of your character. You are developing body, mind, and spirit, and not just becoming a very proficient fighter, but also caring about your community and caring about each other. The thing that I love about Seido Karate more than I think anything else is that anybody can do it. And so we talk regularly to our students that your art is going to look different than my art. Each of us have different bodies and different experiences and different ways that we express our strength. And I just find that really amazing, to really be looking at it as a living art. As a traditional Japanese martial art, traditional Japanese karate, we study kihon, so basics, kata or forms, and kumite or sparring. In Kyokushin, students start in kumite from the very beginning. And Kaicho realized that by waiting and holding off on doing kumite from the very beginning, you allowed the students to develop their own control and spend some time getting skills that they can use when they then have partners that they're going to try to strike them in the head. And so fewer people get hurt. And when fewer people get hurt, students seem to enjoy it more and stick around a little bit. And that's what we would like. We want people who do this for a very long time. The student in the top right corner is one of our now adult black belt, but she started training when she was, I think, 6, and is now in high school and is an amazing person and also a phenomenal spar. But it's been watching people grow up and being part of their lives has been just, it's very humbling. Speaking of children, our kids program starts at age 5, and we incorporate not only Seido Karate, but elements of empowerment, self-defense in every class. We talk about protecting your space and standing up for yourself and standing up for each other. So when you see something that's happening, how can we be active bystanders? Karate improves coordination, balance, endurance, flexibility, but it also helps the kids discover their own strengths. As we're gonna have a little video and the kids speak for themselves.
That you get to be strong and you get to move your body a lot.
What I find most impressive is the teachers and how they work with the kids. They give it a sense of fun, but yet a sense of discipline at the same time with it.
We do the bows and then warm up, and then we usually split into groups with each senpai. We practice and learn things with them.
I've noticed an increased level of concentration, especially in school.
I have been a little bit better on my behavior. It kind of makes you stronger, and you get to work on a different technique each belt rank you do.
I really like learning new things, new kicks, new punches, new blocks, new kata.
I think what's fun about karate is you get to do all these neat stuff while learning and have fun.
Okay, there we go. The last piece that I'm going to share about our kids program is that we have a girls class, and our girls class has not been running while we're in Zoom. We're hoping to get back to it once we figure out how to get everybody back into the building safely. But the girls class is for kids who identify as girls or non-binary, and it really allows them to explore in a safe space what it means to be strong and what our society often tells girls that they can and cannot do. So I feel very, very lucky that they share their lives with us. Today, Sun Dragon has just under 110 active students, all ages, all genders. 57% of our student body is female or non-binary. Our youngest kid is 5 and our oldest is 70. And currently we're trying to figure out how to get back into the dojo. But we're looking to accept new students in June if everything works.
That was wonderful. I really enjoyed the video. That was really, really heartwarming. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Our final presenter will be Libby Sensei, who is the Dojo-cho of Rising Sun Aikido. And one area of her background that I wanted to highlight is that she trained at the Aikido World Headquarters in Tokyo, Japan for 5 years, which seems like a pretty awesome experience. So I'll let Libby Sensei take it away.
So can y'all see my slides?
We can.
Oh, that's such a relief. All right, thank you so much for this opportunity to present today. Starting here with my first slide, and this is definitely the before times when we're in the dojo. We've been closed for over a year now, and I'll talk more about what we're up to after you see this really super cool video that I've queued up. And it's just an overview of what Aikido is. So let me go over to here. Oh, I think I might have to not share first. Hold on, let me get back to the meeting. I think I have to stop presenting and then re-present by sharing that tab. Great. It's called Aikido Explained, the History and Purpose of Aikido. Can you all see that? I
Yes,
hope
we
so.
can.
Yes, we can. We can see it.
My friends from
Aikido,
Sarasota
the
developed
fastest
this.
growing and most recently developed of the major martial arts, is also the most philosophical and revolutionary. Even its name translates to the way of harmony. Aikido is a non-competitive Japanese martial art that does not rely on punching or kicking. Instead, it uses a variety of entering, blending, and turning movements designed to allow the person being attacked to view the situation from the attacker's point of view before executing one of a tremendous array of techniques. The founder of Aikido, Morihiro Saito, grew from a hypersensitive, sickly, frail child to become known the world over as O-Sensei, or Great Teacher. His decades-long dedication to training with sword, staff, and hand-to-hand combat techniques culminated in a life-changing vision at the age of 42. That experience put him on a course that would transform the martial arts. During his 23 years as O-Sensei's live-in student, Morihiro Saito developed the teaching system that has come to be known as Iwama-style Aikido. This style uses the body to train the mind to deal with attack through the combined study of traditional Japanese wooden weapons and empty-handed techniques to develop balance, centeredness, grounding, and breath power. Rooted in the physical practice of Aikido is its dynamic philosophy centered on harmony, peace, and spiritual strength. With unlimited practical applications, Aikido philosophy is especially useful in maintaining balance, centeredness, and composure in times of crisis and rapid or unpredictable change, thereby reducing stress, anxiety, and pain to create more positive outcomes in every aspect of physical, emotional, social, and spiritual life. In the words of O-Sensei, I want considerate people to listen to the voice of Aikido. It is not for correcting others. It is for correcting your own mind.
Okay, thank you for watching that super cool video that I didn't make, but really enjoy his description. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint presentation now. And we just saw this video. Okay, so my journey in Aikido started in 1981, and it wasn't until I prepared this slide that I realized this is my 40th anniversary. It makes me feel really old to say that, that I've been training in Aikido for 40 years. But anyway, I guess I've learned a lot over that period of time. I started at Montana State University. I took a class with Gregory Olsen Sensei for credit at the university, and that's where it all began. And you can see Gregory Olsen and me together around 1981. So in 1984, when I graduated from Montana State University, I went to Japan for a summer vacation. This is a photo of me at Hombu Dojo, the world headquarters in Tokyo. And I ended up spending the next 5 years there studying not just Aikido, I also studied and I continue to study Kyudo, which is the art of Japanese archery. I hear music. Is that me? Uh-oh. It is me, probably. Let me close this. Sorry. I'm going to just close the tab. All right.
We can't
Sorry
hear the
about
music. It'll make you
that.
feel better.
Can I just switch back over? Can you see my slides now?
We can
We
still
can
see
still see them.
You can still see them. Okay, so I study Kyudo also, and there's an Austin Kendo group, which where we study Japanese archery together, and I still practice that today. But I trained with many of the great teachers of Aikido while I was in Japan. Many of them had studied with the founder of Aikido, and included, I studied with the founder's son and also his grandson. But the summer vacation turned into 5 years, as was already mentioned. In 1989, I moved to Austin to get my master's in mechanical engineering. While here, my first day, I ended up going to an Aikido dojo here where I met my husband-to-be. He likes to tell our meeting story, but it would take the whole 10 minutes. But anyway, he wanted me to share that I threw him by his neck that day and he fell head over heels in love with me in that moment. So 1998, I opened Rising Sun Aikido. It started, it's been in many locations, but currently we're on Goodrich Avenue, which is on the corner of Lamar and Goodrich. It's near the Mr. Natural on South Lamar Boulevard. We're affiliated with the Aikido schools of Ueshiba, and this is Saotome Sensei sitting with me. I'm at the Shrine Dojo in Florida. They actually had a big presentation and ribbon cutting today because they built a new apartment for Sensei to live in. He just lost his wife this year, and so he's kind of on his own and he needed a new place to live. But it's a phenomenal place, and that's where this photo was taken. In 2017, I received the rank of 5th degree black belt from Gregory Olsen Sensei. There we are, all these years later, sitting next to each other again. You can see my certificate there. It's presented by Gregory to me, but it came from the current head of Aikido in Tokyo. So we still have a connection with the world headquarters to this day. In the before times in the dojo, I taught children hand to hand. We didn't do a lot of weapons, but some weapons, and also teenagers as well as adults. And things were going really great for us in the dojo, and then the pandemic hit. I also enjoy taking my students to Japan to learn about Aikido in Japan and Japanese culture. One of those students is on this call today, Trang. She can see herself in the middle picture. But I'll tell you, the picture on the left is a dojo in south of Tokyo on the Pacific Ocean side, and it's called the Shingu Dojo. It's a very well-respected international dojo that many visitors there. This was a time that I attended with my family. My 2 sons and my husband are in the background. And we went there also as a group of my students, and you can see in the middle picture my students. We trained at Shingu, and then the cultural experience was to stay at the Urashima Hotel, which is a hotel on an island very close to Shingu. And what's wonderful about the Urashima is that all of the hot springs are in caves. So you wander all through the hotel and go to different caves and soak in the amazing water. The time that I went there with my family, there was a typhoon that wiped out the train. And so we ended up having to stay extra days and suffer at the Urashima Hotel. They ended up getting the train right back up, though, after a few days, and we were able to continue our vacation. The photo on the right is with Yoko Okamoto Shihan. She has a very successful dojo in Kyoto, Japan, so we visited her dojo. She was one of my favorite training partners when I lived in Japan and trained at the world headquarters. The lower photo on the left is at Hiroaki-san's dojo in Yokohama, Japan. Our students, we all went there and trained with him, and everyone felt it was the most welcoming and delightful place to train of all. They're just such wonderful people, and we had just a fantastic time training there. So we're hoping that one of my first international trips will be to go back to Japan. We were planning one before the pandemic hit. I'm going to continue these slides, but I wanted to mention one more thing that we did at our dojo. I forgot to put a slide in for, is periodically we do self-defense workshops. And of course, we had to curtail those as well. But from time to time, we put those on, usually when there's a demand for them. So during the pandemic, we started doing complete Zoom Aikido. There's my dog, Akira Kurosawa, in the foreground. Zoom Aikido is not my favorite Aikido. I still do 2 classes by Zoom every week, but for the most part, I think most of us like to train outside, and we found Little Zilker Park, which isn't far from our dojo and my house. This is the tennis court there, and it was a very cold day. And usually at the end of class, this is David Warner, who taught class that day, who's in the foreground. But after class, depending on the weather, we usually share watermelon or apples, or today it was too cold for them, and we had ended up sharing hot chocolate together. So we still train 4 days a week out at Little Zilker Park as a group. I also do private kids classes outdoors, and here I'm going to have to shift to show you a couple of videos of my students. I'm going to stop presenting and then present again, showing you these videos. The first one is of Peter. He is bubbling with his dad. His dad started Aikido so he could continue, and there they are. And that's a wonderful move that Peter invented himself, the twirling around in a circle. I guess his dad's really strong and pushed, hit him with his stick so hard he felt like a turning around would be the best way to handle that. So I love that video of Peter. And then Juniper is also bubbling with her dad, Nathan. So we're doing a lot of regular training. They really haven't missed a class for this entire year. And so I'm offering these private classes to people, especially if they can bubble. That's the best. Let me go ahead and get,
I'm sorry to interrupt, Libby Sensei, but I'm getting messages that we're out of time. So we have to end promptly at 4, and I think that there's a desire to move on to Q&A. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. I got through most of my presentation, so that's fine.
I'm glad it's not holding you back then. Okay, so
the most important thing was to see Juniper and Peter in my mind. They're so cute. Okay,
they are adorable. Okay, so moving on to the Q&A portion. As I have a few sample questions here that are not sample questions. I have a few questions here that I'm going to ask, but as I mentioned in the start of the meeting, please feel free to ask your own by hitting the activities button in the upper right-hand corner of your screen and then going to Q&A. I'll also try to include some of those in the questions that I ask. We have a hard stop at 4 o'clock, so I just wanted to let everybody know that's why I'm kind of trying to keep to this strict timeline. Okay, so like the first question I have is, some of you spoke about how, like, why you started martial arts, but if you hadn't, feel free to do so. But also, I wanted to know, how did you know that it was the right martial art for you? So I guess we'll go in the order of presenting. So you want to go up first, Kat?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so my first school, I just kind of fell into it because I really wanted to do sword. And then the karate school was just there, and I didn't know any better, so I didn't know anything else to compare to. And then when I moved, I, just tried to find a different school, and I just went with the one that felt right and had the right atmosphere. And then when I got to California, I knew, a couple different styles at this point now, and it was just the one that made the most sense of everything I'd done before. And that was how I knew that Kenpo was the one I was gonna, even if I left it, like I did leave California, I want to keep doing it because it just clicked the most, had the most light bulb moments for me. It was aha. So.
Well, for me, I fell in love with the school. The very first experience I had was there was a test, and the end of the test was a big sparring event, and all the people who came to watch surrounded them and cheered them. And the woman in the middle was crying. She was exhausted, but everybody just propped her up with the sound of the excitement and encouragement. And I felt like a school that can do that. The tears are okay, just keep moving. Just hit me so hard in such a wonderful way that I was like, I have to be part of this. And I do not regret it many, many years later.
Oh, and me, yeah, so I started, prior to doing Aikido, I was doing European fencing, and I was actually pretty good at it. I would win a lot of tournaments, and but to do that, I had to become very, very aggressive, and it never felt very good for me, because of my personality, to be that aggressive. And what so happened that right across the hall from the fencing area was Aikido. So I walked across, looked in the doorway, and saw everybody having such a good time without having to be very overly aggressive. And so I just started Aikido and laughed all the time. And that was so much better than being ferocious. It's just my personality. But
Nice. So moving the topic onto women and girls in martial arts, how do you think we can get more women and girls to participate in martial arts in the first place, and then keep them interested and motivated to go long term? Go ahead.
Order again?
Yeah, we're good. Same order. Let's just do the same order.
I will say that occasionally I do actually get some moms that come in that are interested, not even from credentials or any other reason than the fact that there's a female dojo owner. So I think it's great that there's like the three of us, and there's probably some more in Austin as well that are not here. But I think it's fantastic to have some female dojo owners, or at least really high presence female ranks in their schools, because there are definitely parents that are looking for that for their children. But I also want to encourage parents that might be watching this and considering putting their kids in martial arts that don't have to train under a female. Martial arts is good for girls no matter where the school is. And that's, I think, the biggest hump, to realize that, yes, they can train under anybody, a man or a woman. And then to keep them engaged, really, you just have to really push them up, like Laura was saying, right? Have that really encouraging atmosphere when they come, that they're excited about class, they're excited to see their classmates, they love their teachers. I feel like martial arts is similar to jobs in that people don't really leave jobs, they leave bosses. And I feel like that's very similar to martial arts. They don't really leave martial arts schools, they leave usually the instructor or the peers. Like usually there's some issue there. And that's a lot of time why people will leave, because it's just not a good environment for them, not a very encouraging one for them. And so if we can make sure that they're always having a great time and feeling, encouraged, they'll stay. So, Laura?
I really feel like seeing the women who they look up to, like your experience, Pat, when you were younger, and finding people who are your size and doing what you want to do and look amazing and are just so inspiring. And Seido has so many women that have been training since the 80s and earlier, and knowing that what they went through was experiences with schools with men who didn't want them there, and seeing them come through and seeing them still encouraging other people and that, for me, when I really took a look around and saw how many women around me were so excited about what they're doing, it really got me like excited. One little snippet, what Sensei Joy was the sensei at the school, and so she, we had little kids come in and say that they had fixed their Ninjago figures, their little Lego figures, because the sensei in that is an old man with gray hair. And so they took off the gray hair and took off the head and put a woman's head and woman's hair. And now it's fixed because their sensei was the right sense. You know, it's just like, aw. So little things like that.
So I think a great way for girls to start in martial arts is when they bring a friend. That's usually really, really helpful for them to have, you know, a friend kind of start it with them. And that's why I'm sort of excited that this group of 3 girls that are friends together want to start training in a few weeks. We're going to do it outside and see how that goes. But that's important. I think you have to make it really fun. It has to be fun. There has to be a lot of rewards. We have belt ranking very frequently so that they feel like they're progressing. And so I think that's, you know, and for women, it seems like having a female instructor is really important for some women and even some men. I had a slide about that. I do have men in the dojo who prefer women instructor, but we're talking about women now. And so being a female, I think, makes it less intimidating. At least I've heard that from my students, that it's less intimidating walking into a dojo when there's a woman instructor.
Alex, can you hear us?
Alex
Alex
is frozen. Oh,
yeah.
Alex Sensei was having trouble with her sound.
Alex?
While she fixes that, we could do the question in the Q&A to keep us moving along.
That's a wonderful idea.
Someone asked, yeah, Gina asked, for those hoping to open their own school, what was the hardest part in starting? That's a very fresh topic for me since I, just have my own storefront. I may have been teaching since 2017, but that is not the same as having a physical location of your own. But for both of those things, when I started subletting and just teaching in general on my own, like at first I just, it was a mental thing for myself. Oh, I'm not high enough rank and I shouldn't be doing it. I just needed that encouragement from my instructor to say, go ahead and do it. You used to teach me all the time, just to believe in yourself, really. If you have people that want to learn with you and you know your material, just have faith that you can do that, and then, finding a place and making sure it's in a budget and all those things is a whole nother beast. But just, someone's got audio coming on now. So, but yeah, just look around, make a budget and stick to it. But also location is very important. I learned. I love my location. I couldn't be happier there. I never had walk-ins at the place I subletted from because he was off the beaten path. So people only ever found me on Google, and I only ever had a few students as a result. I literally more than doubled my enrollment in the first month I was open at the new location. It was phenomenal. And that's in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah, I went from 11 to 27. So
wow.
Yeah, all because they just walked by because it was in a shopping center with a bunch of restaurants and other things that they were always going to. And it was really close to where they lived for these people. So, yeah. Laura?
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I didn't open my own school, but I took over a school and I'm helping running it. And I think I agree with you that the believing that I can do this was one of the hardest things. We've also used finances, trying to figure out, how much things there need to be to help keep things open. And, but yes, the finding the encouragement from your community really helps. Libby Sensei?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, if you notice,
can everybody hear me now?
Yay!
Awesome. Okay, I guess we should move on to the audience question.
Well, let's
we already went to Walter.
Alex,
Great question, by the way. So Robert Mark Abbott is asking, Oh,
Alex.
Oh no.
Libby was actually answering the first one still.
Yes.
We're working on the first question.
Yeah,
I was just going to add that if you looked at my bio, I came here in '89, but didn't open a space until '98. And during a big portion of that time, we trained informally at a space at UT. So we're all UT members to be able to train in their gym. And they had a martial arts space there that was awesome. So we just trained there, and I didn't have an official dojo, but it did get old, and my students convinced me to go ahead and take the plunge and start subleasing from a yoga school. It was located right next to where the Alamo Draft House South is. You can't, they leveled it. But anyway, yeah, so subleasing is a great entryway to starting your own dojo.
All right. So, Kako, I believe you wanted to give an announcement about an upcoming event in May. Would you like to go ahead and give that announcement now?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. We extended time to 5 minutes.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So,
questions from the audience.
yes.
Robert, Mark, Abbott, will you read?
Sure. So this one is directed specifically at Libby Sensei and Hayden Sensei, and he's asking if you're familiar with Satori alternatives to managing aggression. It was created by an Aikido instructor here in Texas.
Wow, no, I've not heard of that.
Neither have I. I'm definitely going to be writing that down, looking at it.
Yeah. I will look into it. And if they want to share a link, they could do that in the chat. Maybe we could quickly take a look at it.
Yeah. Okay. I don't see any more questions in the Q&A right now, so we'll move on to my questions still. I guess my other questions are about how Budo has influenced your life. Obviously greatly, but specifically, what aspects of Budo and martial arts really helps you in your daytime work? How has it helped you overcome specific challenges, and how studying Budo specifically benefits women and girls?
All right, well, I guess I'll start again. For me, it really helped my confidence, my self-belief. I think that really set me up for success as an adult entering the workforce, because I didn't go into a male-dominant work field like feeling very timid. I already went in there, believing in myself because of that high school and college level martial arts that I'd already done. I could stand up tall next to the boys and not feel like I was out of place amongst them. And it taught me to never give up, to fight through things, so to focus. So that really helped me. If I have a problem at work, whether it's personal or actually like a work problem, like a programming problem, I know that I can just sit down, focus, take it step by step, break it down, and get to the root of it, and that, I think, is something I learned from martial arts. So, Laura?
Thank you. Mindfulness, really taking the time to stop and breathe. Still working on it, but every day. But I really feel like I would not have made it through the pandemic, a year of not being able to physically play with my dojo mates and hug the kids that I teach, and having that non-quitting spirit that we talk about all the time is really something that has helped me feel like we can push through this and we can make it to the other side. And without studying Seido at Sun Dragon, I wouldn't have met the people at Sun Dragon who have just been unbelievably important to every day.
So, and I'll mention just two specific things. One is that in relationships, especially adversarial relationships, when there is an issue, we tend to want to fight back, or we tend to want to get in the fetal position. But martial arts teaches you how another way, right? There's a way to turn and not be an aggressor or just retract. And I think that helps me every day in my relationships. I would say the other thing during the pandemic, I'm a master of social distancing. I think that when you study a martial art, right, we're studying combative distance all the time. And I'm always amazed on how people are walking around not thinking about it. And I'm the one who's always having to go, oh, you're getting a little too close. And so I think that's part of being aware. You know, if you haven't studied a martial art, I think social distancing is really difficult. But it can be a game that you play during the pandemic. It's a horrible thing, but you can play the game. I need to keep my 6 feet away from you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
hi. Hi, how about Alex? To you, same questions.
Same question. I think that, of course, resilience, as you know, as Laura, as you mentioned, is a huge thing. I also think it's taught me a lot about gratitude. I am so thankful to everyone who has ever spent time teaching me, because now you have to do the same, right? When you get into that instructor role, you have to do it then. And it's just taking time. They took time out of their practice to help me. And that means a lot. I'm specifically thinking of like one instructor I've had in the past. Her name was Makiko Adachi Sensei. She practiced in Houston for years, for a few years when she and her husband lived here. They have since gone back to Japan, but you know, she was amazing. And then even if I look at people who, you know, aren't necessarily above me in rank, but just you learn so much from even people who aren't your instructors, but from your students and from your dohai and your kohai, your equal level partners, and then your the people who are more junior than you. You learn so much from them, and I'm so grateful to every single one of them for putting in the effort and spending the time to come into the dojo and practice and help me improve.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I learn
All
stuff
right.
from my wife every day.
Yeah. Nice. And I'm getting the sign from Kako that we're kind of running out of time. Yep. So we'll let her make her announcement, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, Alex and all, thank you. That was excellent. Let me just do it one quick housekeeping. Our next program will be held on Tuesday, May 4th at 6 p.m. We will invite Dr. Bill Tsui, who is Edwin Reischauer Distinguished Professor of Japanese Studies. He will talk about Japanese surimi. We will also invite a Japanese professional chef for cooking demo using surimi. Looking forward to seeing you on May 4th, while Japan is celebrating a Children's Day. Thank you. So thank you, Alex. Will you close, please?
Well, it looks like she might be frozen.
Oh, okay, she freezed. Okay, all right, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this event. Hope you enjoyed. And then thank you, Libby Sensei, Laura Sensei, and then Kat Sensei. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
See you soon on May 4th, 6. Thank you, everyone.
Arigatou gozaimashita.
Arigatou gozaimashita. Is she back? No?
No.
She lost her connection. She messaged us.
Yes, and she said this never happened.
Bye.